Hi, I'm Catina Franklin Sweedy from the Clarinet Project on YouTube and Instagram, and in this video we are going to talk about tuning tips for clarinetists. I'm assisted today by Lisa on B-flat clarinet. Hey Lisa!
Hi Catina.
And here we go. When you're tuning in band, the concertmaster is going to play the concert B-flat, which is our C. And the concertmaster, luckily for us, is the first chair clarinetist. So they will play that C, and the first thing you're going to do is not play. You are going to listen to it, hear it in your mind, lock it in, and then play your clarinet. Don't noodle around, don't play the Mozart Clarinet Concerto or the Hinastera variations or anything like that. Just play that C. You can double check your octaves and maybe some fifths. And you can also double check notes that are in a piece that's coming up that might be giving you a little bit of intonation trouble, but do it very discreetly. There is actual etiquette to tuning. You don't want to play too loud. You want to make sure the people around you can hear the tuning note too. So just play as much as you need to and get out of the way. Another little tidbit of clarinet etiquette with tuning is that if you're playing in an orchestra and you get the concert A from the oboe and you are not playing principal clarinet, wait. Wait for the principal clarinetist to play and then you can play. You always want to be matching with your principal clarinetist anyway, and you don't want to play first because they are the person you're matching to, number one, but number two, it's just the polite thing to do. Okay, so you're listening to the tuning note, you hear it in your mind, and you start to play, but you can't tell if you're sharp or if you're flat. That's all right. It's hard to tell if you're sharp or you're flat, especially in the beginning and especially if you're really close. The best thing you can do is actually concentrate on blending. Get inside that sound and try and match it as exactly as you can. You will find that you will make adjustments to get there so that you can match it, and that's what we're going to talk about next. How to make those adjustments so that you can lock in with that tuning pitch. These are adjustments that you can make all throughout your instrument at all times when you're playing, because tuning doesn't just happen when you hear the tuning note and you're over and done with it. We are constantly tuning as we play. It is just as important to be paying attention to the intonation of our instruments as the fingerings and the rhythms and our sound. So intonation, make that an integral part of your clarinet playing, performing, and practicing. All right, we've talked about blending and matching, and now it's time to talk about how to adjust your pitch so that you can match with what you're hearing around you. We will talk about raising your pitch on the clarinet and lowering your pitch on the clarinet before we talk about changing the length of your clarinet by mechanically modifying your instrument by pushing in and pulling out. If you find that when you're trying to blend, you need to pull your pitch down, there are a number of things that you can do. You can play louder. Now, not so loud that you're overpowering the people around you or it's obnoxious or you're letting your sound get away from you, but by beefing up your sound and playing a little bit more full, you will lower your pitch. You also can lower your fingers a little bit closer to the keys. It's good habit to be in anyway because we want to be quick and accurate as clarinet players. So you do want to avoid having your fingers lifted up far away from your instrument. It's also a nice way to lower your pitch. You can open up the back of your throat and have an aw feeling like you're yawning. That will lower your pitch as well. Put your hand in front of your face and blow warm air onto your hand. That is how you can get that feeling of the aw in your playing. Opening up the back of your throat and getting that warm air. Another way to lower your pitch is to drop your jaw. Keep that good embouchure, drop your jaw down. That opens up your oral cavity and that'll lower your pitch as well. It also has the added benefit if you are one of the people that bites when you play, then that will prevent that as well. If you find you need to raise your pitch, we have a number of techniques that we can use there as well. And big surprise, a lot of them are the opposite of what we were just talking about with lowering the pitch. One of the best things that you can do is speed up your airstream. Just like I had you hold your hand up before and blow the warm air on it, let's blow the cold air on it. So you're going to support with your abs just like you're always doing anyway, and you're going to raise your tongue position in the back like you're saying E. This is what we refer to a lot of times as voicing, how we control the oral cavity of our head when we play the clarinet, where we put our tongue and what position the back of our tongue is in is our voicing. So you want to have an E tongue position, like you're saying ew to bring forward to your good embouchure, or my personal favorite, hiss like a cat. That's a great way to get that feeling of the E. Once you get that E going, I want you to drive that air into your hand, and it should feel a little bit colder, especially compared to the big open warm air. That faster air will raise your pitch as well. So a lot of times when I'm working with younger students that are having sagging pitch, which happens to a lot of us in the beginning, just by saying E, that brings that pitch right up. In addition to having your E tongue position, you can raise your fingers a little bit if you need to. Ideally, we don't do that. It's not a great habit to be in, but in a pinch, it'll work to help bring your pitch up. Another thing that you can do is you can push in a little bit with your bottom lip and your jaw into that reed, pushing that reed against your mouthpiece, making it vibrate faster. That will bring up your pitch as well. If playing louder lowers your pitch, what is playing quieter going to do? Yes, if you said it was going to raise your pitch, you are right. So if you need to get that pitch a little bit higher, back off a bit, play a little bit quieter in there, and that will raise your pitch also. So you're making the adjustments to play sharper or to play flatter depending on what your needs are. And if you're consistently playing sharp or you're consistently playing flat, there are ways to adjust the length of your instrument so that you don't have to be constantly making all of these physical adjustments. If you find that you are playing sharp, you can pull out from your barrel, your middle joint, and from your bell, depending on where you are sharp the most frequently. So if you pull out here from your barrel, just twist and turn a little bit until you find the spot that works for you. Everybody's a little bit different in here. Even though this will lower the pitch of your whole clarinet, it really does affect your throat tone area and your upper joint the most. If you find that you pull out here in the barrel and you're flat in your throat tone area and your upper joint, you can pull out from the middle here instead and push back in at the barrel to make sure that you are more in tune throughout your instrument. When you pull out from this middle joint in here, make sure that you line up your bridge key very carefully. If you find that your B over the break is sharp or your low E, you can pull out here also at your bell. If you're playing flat, the first thing you need to do is double check that you're pushed in all of the way. Make sure your barrel's pushed in, your middle joint, and your bell. If you are pushed in all the way and you've raised your tongue position for the E, you've got a great embouchure, your hands are in a good position, and you're consistently flat, don't worry, you have a lot of options on how to fix that. Number one, double check your reed strength. If your reed is a little too light for you, it will drop your pitch. So go ahead and try a half step harder reed. You may find that you have to go through an adjustment period to get used to it. The harder reeds tend to play a little bit more stuffy and they aren't quite as flexible. If you find that you are not able to comfortably get out of that adjustment period, go back to the reed strength you were using before. A lot of times I have found that even though people return to their previous reed strength that they were playing a little flat on, they're now playing better in tune, more sharp, because they've gotten it into their ear and now they play a little bit higher. If the reed strength is where you want it to be and that hasn't helped raise your pitch, I want you to double check your barrel length. A lot of times barrels are too long for players. That's why we have so many barrel choices out there. I, for instance, am playing on a 65 millimeter length barrel because a 66 millimeter barrel was too flat for me. I used to play on a 64 millimeter in the past. So be flexible with the length of your barrel too, depending on the model and brand of clarinet that you are using. You can also double check your mouthpiece. Mouthpieces do have different tunings. There are A440 mouthpieces, A442 mouthpieces. So try a different mouthpiece, see if that raises your pitch also. Please double check your tone holes. Tone holes get a lot of gunk in them through the years. You always want to make sure that you're maintaining and cleaning your clarinet properly. If you have anything in those tone holes, that will also affect your pitch, but it's easy to clean with a Q-tip or a very soft pipe cleaner. And if you don't want to do it, you can always find a repair tech that'll do it for you. Every note on the clarinet has its own intonation personality. So you want to get to know your instrument all the way through. Use your tuner, play all the notes, play scales, play songs with your tuner, and know what your clarinet's tendency is for each and every note. That way, when you're playing in an ensemble and you have to be tuning, you don't have to rely constantly and exclusively just on your ear. You will know that your E tends to be sharp, or your B tends to be flat, and you can make an intellectual adjustment as well as an oral adjustment. Okay, so you're playing and something isn't right. For me, it usually sounds like a buzz or a pulsation or just not feeling right or sounding right. It's actually really difficult to figure out if you're sharp or you're flat, especially if you're close to where you need to be. What I'm going to do first, before I start pulling out or pushing in here, is try and figure out which way to go. I will work on raising my pitch first. I will tighten up my embouchure, raise my tongue position to an E position like E. I can also play a little bit quieter, which will raise the pitch, and try colder air. So put your hand in front of your mouth and use your abs to support and drive that air through like you're blowing out a whole bunch of birthday candles. It's a little bit cooler air. Or if that doesn't work, I will try lowering my pitch. I will drop my jaw, open up my oral cavity in the back of my throat, almost like I'm yawning in the back of my throat, like an oh kind of sound. That will help lower the pitch. You can also play louder. My recommendation is to do it discreetly, beautifully, and tactfully. You don't want to power on through and then other people can't hear their tuning note around you. Okay, so I figured it out. Either I'm sharp or I'm flat. I can adjust here, especially because you don't want to be dropping your jaw or raising your pitch the entire time you're playing. So we have a tuning option. It's actually a tuning slide on the bass clarinet. You will want to unscrew the screw, pull out if you're sharp, and then screw it back in. Experiment with the different areas of where you need to pull out. Use a tuner when you're tuning in band and the band director comes by with a tuner. This is your opportunity to try and find where you are here. Later on in this video, I'm going to talk about using a tuner, but one of the things that you can do is just sort of mentally picture where you need to pull out. I've actually had students take a picture with their smartphone so that they know where they usually pull out, as a way to remember it. If you are flat, you're going to want to push in. Once again, loosen the screw, push in, and then tighten that screw. If you have one of the bass clarinets that doesn't have the tuning screw right here for the tuning slide, just pull out right here at this top joint and push in as needed. If you have pushed in all the way and you're still flat, don't despair, you still have a couple of other options. One of the things you can try is a harder reed. Go up a half step or a quarter step if you can find one. The harder reed vibrates faster and will raise your pitch. It can be more difficult to go to a harder reed. It's stuffier, it can take more air, a little bit harder to play, but if you can get used to it, it's a great way to raise your pitch and be able to play higher on the bass clarinet too as an added bonus. If you try it for a couple of days and it's too stuffy, you can't play loud enough, and you can't get enough air through that instrument, go ahead and go back to your other reed. Usually what happens is the pitch is a little bit higher anyway because people are used to hearing it and they're used to playing the harder reed. So that is an option when you try a different reed. If that doesn't work for you, you can also try a different mouthpiece. Mouthpieces are tuned, usually to A440, but there are mouthpieces out there that are tuned to A442, and that's another way to raise your pitch. Honestly though, the biggest one that I see for people playing flat is having too loose of an embouchure. So go ahead and tighten up in there, spin that air, and that will usually bring that pitch up for you. Let's talk about using a tuner. A tuner is a great tool. It is not, though, a crutch. If you're using that tuner just to follow the needle and you're the only one that's in tune and everybody else is sharp around you, you are flat. So use your tuner to find out where you are. There are a lot of great tuner apps out there. They are worth the $4 or the $10 or whatever they cost. I recommend Tonal Energy. It's got a cute little green smiley face when you're in tune and a great Twitter account. And the iStrobosoft tuner is an excellent tuner as well, which is very, very minutely accurate. So in one of your practice sessions, or many of your practice sessions, go through one of your scales with the tuner. Find out where your tendencies are. Certain notes on the clarinet are sharper or flatter than other ones. So find out where they are and work on building that evenness throughout your instrument. By knowing the tendencies of certain notes on your instrument, then when you're in band and you're not in tune on that note, you will also have intellectual backup instead of just trying to figure it out by ear, by knowing that, oh, you know what, my E is usually a little bit sharp, and you can lower the pitch that way. Then you don't have to push out and pull in all the time for each individual note when you're tuning in sectionals or band rehearsal, because you know that that note has a specific tendency. And like I said earlier, you can work with those tendencies to try and get them to match through your instrument better. When you're tuning in band or a rehearsal or on your own and you just can't figure out where that pitch is, that's when you pull that tuner out to see where you are, to work on the note that way. So really there are many ways to work with the tuner, but really the best ones are to use it to know where your tendencies are, play every single note on your instrument and find out what's going on. And when you're in a situation where you just can't figure it out, try using your ear first, and if you can't get there, that's when you're going to use your tuner. I spent a lot of time talking about blending and tuning, and there are things that we can do to get better at it just with our ears and our brains. One of the best things that you can do is actually play along with a drone. They have great ones on YouTube. You also can use your Tonal Energy app to create some drones to play along with that. So pick a pitch. Let's say we're going to go with concert B flat because that's what we've been talking about today, and you're going to play your C with it, and your C the octave higher, and the C the other octave higher, or even octave lower if you've got it on your bass clarinet. So match those Cs, then match the fifth, match the Gs, then match the fourth, match the Fs, match the third, which is the Es. You can match all these different intervals and lock it in just with your ear playing along with the drone. Play the C major scale up and down slowly so you can hear what the tendencies of the notes are within that drone. You can also play a couple of songs. You can play arpeggios. I usually pick an easy song like Mary Had a Little Lamb to try and lock it in and play in tune with the drone that way. That's a great way to build your ear training skills. Another thing you can do is sing with the drone. Try and match the pitch with your voice. Sing along to songs that you like that aren't necessarily band songs. Anything that you're listening to, try and get in there with the pitch. Pull out your clarinet and try and play along too and figure out what those notes are. All of these things will help your ear get better so that you can tune better in band. Thank you, Lisa, for helping out in this video.
Thanks for watching.
and happy clarinetting.